welcome to another edition of SacPy. It's November 3rd, 2022. Supposedly still in pandemic, although I suppose if we wanted to, we could do this in person. I like it on Zoom though, because we get a much broader reach of people. And it makes it a little bit easier to get a presentation through because, well, sharing on a screen that's not well lit doesn't always read very well. So, all right, all hail our glorious founder, Josh Miller. Yeah. So yeah, those QR codes should get you in there. Feel free to screenshot if you want to jump in. We're also on a couple other outlets: Twitter, Reddit, Facebook. Anyway, now's a good time to do a quick community shot. I'm gonna move on to a better background for myself. But if you'd like, hop on your camera. I'm gonna drop the share for a second here. Oh wait, no, well, maybe it's not the best way to do it. Where's my options here? Oh, Robertson. There we go.
There we go.
All right, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna put on funny. Good times. Anyway, so Taneem's presented with us a handful of times. This is a continuation of a previous project. Some personal utilities he made for himself, and hopefully this will be an interesting lesson in how to distill the good parts and abstract them away from the messy parts and come out with something a little bit more focused.
So it looks like I'm sharing 3 things, and it's a little more distilled than what Woody described it. The email stuff is pretty hairy and a lot of bespoke functionality in there. So it's just image and video, IV Thani, pronounced IV, just like how I said. Let me see if I can make it full screen. So do you see that?
I like how it's from Taneem for Taneem.
That's pretty much it, Let's have a little prayer for how the philosophy for everything I present and sort of what I expect from everything else.
I feel so full of, what's the opposite of shame? Pride? No, not that far from shame.
Less shame?
Yeah.
That's really
Yes. Cheers to less bad.
Yes, less awful. So the whole idea behind actually came out because there are some users of the image and video stuff that I'm going to describe here that lived in NPR stuff at work. So a few, like maybe 3 or 4 people at work said they wanted to use something to, crop images automatically, and a nicer tool to create, MP4 files from a string of images, PNGs or JPEGs as frames. The problem is that this lived and continues to live in an older repository that's named NPR stuff. But the problem is NPR stuff has too many things in it, especially if you just want to use this image and video functionality. So what I've done is I've carved out that stuff into a new repository called IV Thani, which has its own coordinates on GitHub. Let me see if I can, let me go back here. Let's see if, it's not even doing that. Keep forgetting. Go to, how do I click on the link? Ooh. I guess I didn't fix everything, but this is what I mean by the repo here. So this is the Sphinx repository, and this is the repo that lives on GitHub. And for those of you who came later, this link here actually has the PowerPoint and Keynote versions of this presentation. So if people want to follow what I'm saying, as well as be able to click on the links that I show, feel free to just download that and get a copy yourselves. Oh, there we go. All right, thanks. Oh, okay, it looks like, yes, all right. Moving
No
on.
problem. Those links are in the chat if anyone wants to follow along.
Yeah, okay. So let's see why it looks like it can only do one thing at a time. So I'll start off with what it is, how to pronounce it, you already heard. There's actually 6 command line tools in it. I'm only going to describe 2. And it's the same functionality that's in an older repo, but much fewer dependencies. And in the second part, if there's a interest in it, it's a rehash of these command line tools that I use all the time, as well as use the API for some of my other repositories, both on GitHub and at work. So the thing I'm going to talk about are 3 things: auto-cropping images, creating an MP4 from a collection of images as frames, and creating animated GIFs, which I found another use for it too, just a few days ago. So what and why? Ivy_Thani. So it consists of 6 command line tools, but I'm only going to be talking about auto crop image and convert image. Now, this requirements.txt has only 9 dependencies, and let's see if I can, I know I'm just hopping around here. Let me see if I can, let's see if it's going to let me. Oh, click open the link. If you guys can see it, is it letting me share? Are you seeing this? Oh, share here. So
Yep, I'm seeing the GitHub.
Yep, this is the requirements.txt. All of, well, they're fairly unusual. The only thing that's sort of usual is matplotlib. If you guys do any form of programming, scientific programming, matplotlib is the main plotting and visualization module in Python. And requests is another one, because I wonder why I have that. It's probably somewhere in the code. What I did is I went through the command line tools and carved out the necessary modules and figured out where the imports were, or where the imports were that I actually used. So for comparison, let me show you what the old repository has. And you got to take my word for it. When you just do a pip download, it's a way of just saying, okay, take all the dependencies down to as deep as they'll go, and download them from a requirements file, the file that I showed you. I get 46 packages taking up 48 megabytes. A lot of that stuff, your standard Python, distribution would probably have that. Now let me just show you, for comparison, this one here. So this is all NPR stuff. 30 dependencies here. And most of this stuff, I think all but those 9 or 10 are things I don't even use anymore. There's a lot of stuff associated with the GUI, which I hardly ever use, as well as things that I don't use all that often.
So basically, throughout the code of NPR stuff, you had imports that touched all of these packages?
Basically, yes, yes.
Well,
right. But, I was pretty promiscuous with it. It was just like, oh, I needed this, okay. Let me do a pip install. Then I constructed the requirements.txt from that.
To name that last line is interesting.
This one, oh yeah, this is actually valid, a pip installation command. You see this git plus HTTPS. You don't have to use PyPy. By default, that's what pip install or pip download does. It goes to the pypy.org website and gets that information. But the last line, line 30, implies that you can actually get it from a Git repo. Right. And that's what I'm showing here.
That's your username, and then the repo, and then at the end it's the branch, right?
Yep, you can specify it that way. Yeah, you can actually specify as a, Git URL and branch and associate it with the package name.
That's the package name, not the username.
Yeah, package name, not the username. Yes.
Okay.
And similarly, doing something like this, 93 packages, 190 megabytes. And yep, it's sort of like, well, I don't need all this crap. Plus, I've had to move this stuff over to a place that doesn't have reliable internet access or access to the wider internet. And so just moving FTPing stuff over was a real chore, especially if you just make a slight modification. Then suddenly you've got to do the whole deployment song and dance. So I thought there's probably a better way. And this thing will have knock-on effect because I've got I think 6 or 7 other repos that depend on NPR stuff, but they only use the image and video functionality in it. So it's a straight up replacement with Ivy Thanim. And now they don't have to rely on this thing that's, for all this extra stuff that they never use. They just use only what they need to. So this is just basically a refactoring project that I spit out in a few hours. So the rest of it is probably stuff you've seen before, Robert and Woody, is this thing that I use all the time. And let me just see if I can open the link. It's, oops. Oh my God, what the hell? It's one of those, it's like basically killing bugs. I thought it points to the Sphinx coordinates, but I'll just show that here.
Yeah, that was the file itself on GitHub, right?
The file itself. I spent an hour doing this a few hours ago. Let me see if I fixed everything. I guess I didn't. But this is basically what this thing does. You have an image and you create a cropped version of it. And let me see, well, I don't know, its syntax is pretty straightforward. Does anybody want to see it in action? Or
yeah, sure. Show it again.
Okay.
It's a good one.
So, okay, let me see if I can change the share. So maybe, let me see, yeah, how do I change the share? I've got to do this pause or stop share. Sorry about that. It's one. Let me see if I can do a preview. So I'm doing several things that are let's see if I can. Let me see if I can do something easy. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me see if I can do the uncropped. I'm going to save it into, where did I put it? Oh, hell, it's just going to be really hard to do otherwise. You see that? I'm sort of downloading it right now.
Now we just see you at this point.
Oh, right. Sorry. I'm trying to do several things at once. It's one of those things, several people are typing. Okay. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm getting a permissions error. Aren't those fun? Let me go do something else. Open. I want to. Ah,
This is why we shake down.
yeah, I know. I know. I hope you guys don't have too many things to do. But I didn't have my presentation ready by then.
That's okay. This is fine.
Yeah. Somebody's going to make their next trillion by using a database version of a file system. Okay. So this is going to be maybe it'll be me in some alternate reality. Okay, this one, this one, this one, this one. And let's see if there's a preview. Let's see if it'll let me go to. All right, you know what? I'm just going to put it in the browser. If that's fine with everybody. It's just
That works for me.
really hard. Yeah, it is really hard to identify a window. Okay. All right. So I'm going to just show the before and after in the browser, and you're going to see this thing called I want to believe uncropped. Let me just move it over. I'm being way too ambitious. Desktop. I want to believe. You see this file, I want to believe uncropped here that I've highlighted. I'm going to now open. Where the hell is it? Okay. Let's see. Presentation, demonstrations, movie image demos. I want to believe uncropped. Do you see that tab there? You see this image? Okay, lots of white space around it.
The Mulder Santa?
Yes, the Santa. Now, auto crop image. You see the help screen here? I'm going to do this input equals. It's a magic trick. I want to believe.
Can you zoom the text in a little?
Sure. Is it a little better now?
It is, yes, it's better.
Input, output, blah. G. And now I'm going to show you the cropped image. Ta-da! And I use this stuff all the time to basically create anything, any image I create, wherever, whatever program, whatever tool, whatever blah, blah, blah there is. But I want to, put it in a presentation or send it off to somebody else, or write, an HTML email with a lot of, technical stuff in it, which was another SacPy meetup that I did, and I described a little bit of that. So this is sort of what I do. It's crops an image that way. And
so what range of like white colors can it remove? I'd imagine if there's some level of artifacting, it would kind of get hung up, perhaps.
Exactly. Good question. Yeah, it's not very smart. It looks for it does an argmin and argmax, in X and Y. So the first non-white pixel it finds on the left and right and up and down, that's the new bounding. So yes, artifacting images with artifacts like bitmaps. It doesn't do good. It doesn't do anything there. So it's got to be a fairly clean image for this process to work. But in my case, it sort of covers 99.5% of the use cases. And I guess for a few other people where I work, it does that too. And I guess you use something Did you use this functionality too, Woody? I don't remember if you did.
I mean, I played around with it the first time you launched or showed it. I'm a big fan of just cropping a screenshot with the Mac, but I think this is pretty cool because especially if you're doing bulk images and then you're seeing that there's, you know, that white like surround. I can see where this would be super valuable.
Yep. So moving on, this is basically the how it works. It just finds the first, you know, white pixel, non-white pixel left and right, up and down, and then creates a new image from that. The auto cropping PDF does something similar, but since, you know, screen share is kind of difficult, I invite you to try it yourself. Well, I think on the Sphinx documented website, there's just sort of, you know, both these cropped and uncropped PDF images too. Well, machine learning. Well, that is the dream. And you mentioned, oh, yes?
Yeah, Tanim, following Woody's little request there, is it possible to set a threshold which would allow you to remove noise artifacts from around the outside and therefore improve your X, Y, top, bottom?
I would say it's possible, but this is my being a professor and telling a grad student or postdoc. I've heard something like this is possible. Here's a little demo, you know, that I crapped out at a group meeting. Go nuts. I would think it's possible. I haven't tried it in the real world. I would say where to look to start is use this scikit image, you know, module, because I've used that with some success to, for instance, find edges in images for my own applications. And that might be the place to do to, you know, basically get useful statistics on the image to identify regions that can be removed, as well as perform image manipulation, maybe some processing of the image to more easily get rid of those things. The thing I can think of is maybe something like a blur. Try it out and see how far you go. But this is my being a professor, not understanding the problem space very well, and then tasking one of their students to try something like that.
Well,
So,
yeah. So I'd be imagining, you know, you mentioned, well, in your list of requirements, there's Pillow, for example,
yes,
or PIL. There are filters available in Pillow which will allow that sort of idea that if there's one black mark, you know, only a couple of pixels wide, and it's surrounded by white, which is the surround of the Santa image,
right.
then we should be able to filter that out quite easily, I would have thought. But I was
Yeah, it's
hoping you were the
possible.
expert here, man.
You're giving me too much credit. I mean, it sounds like a clustering algorithm that you can use to identify small regions surrounded by large regions, clustering and mapping algorithm, and then saying, oh, okay, well, this is maybe in a halo part of your image, and then identify and then kill those, or, you know, paint over them. You know, this is stuff I've just developed to scratch an itch, and it's turned out to be a little more useful than I expected. But to your point, Woody, you mentioned it would be great, you know, batching this would be useful. And that's where this creating movies functionality, which has really improved since I last talked about it, comes into play. It's really something I use all the time now. So
cool.
let me see if I can go to that. It's, let's see, you know, I'm kind of curious. Oh, this one actually works. this is this convert image functionality. Can you see that here? Oop.
Yep.
It does 3 things. I took it from NPR stuff, which did 4 or 5 things. One of those functionalities is dead. The other one requires YouTube DL to work. So I just got rid of the 2 that I didn't use and these 3 things. So here's, basically the functionality here, or I mean the Sphinx documentation. And let me just go through the 2 things I'm going to describe. All right. So one of them, it takes and creates the MP4 movie from a sequence of images. And the other one I'm describing, it creates an animated GIF.
Right. And we saw that one in the COVID updates, right?
Yes, exactly. It uses this as the backend for creating, an MP4 file from a sequence of images. So like before, I can show you, this functionality. I'll, create those images, and create the movie from the sequence of images from the shell. So it's the from images, sub functionality or incarnation of this executables operation that does what I just described. You give it, you have to provide the prefix. You have to provide the, you don't have to provide the frames per second. By default, it uses 5. And the functionality you're talking about is this thing called autocrop, which is, a lot of these sequence of images from other tools I use have a lot of white space in them. So the autocrop, what it does, it removes that extra white space and modifies the width modifies the width and height so that they're multiples of 2. They have to be even numbers for FFmpeg to create the MP4 file. I don't know, maybe it's a specification of MP4. So let's see. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me go back to this thing called movie image demos. And let's see, zip. And I'm going to nuke what I had before. MC image copy, MC animation. Zip, MC. Let's do it all. So we're going to do some clean cut. And if you want to see, maybe for your benefit, what this is, right? Just this is just one frame. Okay. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to, what is this? Convert images. Convert image info from images. And help is a savior. I can't remember anything. Prefix, image, 10, and autocrop. All right, create something with same, MP4 file with the same prefix as all those, all the sequence of images as frames. So I'm going to now move, what is it? MC animation images. All right. So see what I just did? And we can either show it here or there. It's up to you guys. Any preference?
Show us the one you just made.
Just the one I made. Okay, let's go up.
Yeah.
Let's go up here. Here's this thing here.
Ooh, look at it go. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's right. It's a fade in.
It's a
Fade
fade in. Yes. It's a concept I demonstrated to some high school students in my old alma mater called Monte Carlo Markov chain. So it's basically a, black white coloration of one of that pictures, my profile picture, and turns that into a two-dimensional distribution function and progressive sampling of that. So there are more and more points, as few as possible or none in the first frame. I think 10 million points in the final frame. So just a little something there. And I guess I'm just going to show, you've got to take my word for it, a similar collection of images. This is for the COVID-19 stats repo, this COVID-19 tracker that I've developed and have been updating daily for, well, it's been about a little over 2 years now. Here's just a demonstration of it, taking the sequence of images and creating an MP4 file from it. And this is from, July, the beginning of July 2020. So it's been filled out a little more since then, but this was just an earlier demonstration of that functionality. Or it's a demonstration of, this convert image creating a movie into, something like this. Yes. All right.
And Conus meant contiguous.
Contiguous US.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And final thing, I actually found even a new application for it beyond this. Well, there's the fact that some services like GitHub or Read the Docs, which is also a place where people host their, Sphinx documentation, doesn't, play MP4 files, which if you got a lot of MP4 files, that can be problematic if you want to have, here's a nice video people can see. But they do allow animated GIFs. New thing I found out is, Microsoft Word. I had to submit a proposal and I wanted to put it in animation. And so what happened was, have you guys tried it? With Word, you can embed your MP4 file into it, right? But that Word document won't have the MP4 file embedded inside it. That is, it'll look fine on your computer screen, but if you want to send that email off to somebody else, right, they won't see the MP4. But you can put in an animated GIF, and that will embed properly because I guess it's an image format. And so the idea behind this is to, create these convert image movie. Let's see if this works. It just goes through the syntax of, how to basically create a movie, an animated GIF from, from an MP4 file. And there's an optional argument, which I found useful too, is you can scale it, by some factor greater than 0 to, either shrink or increase the size of the animated GIF that you want to share or embed in your document. So with that, same process as before. You want to see me demonstrate the functionality. And let me make things easy. Let me see if I can, yep, the GIF isn't there, right? You don't see a GIF, right?
Right.
Uh-huh. And let me see, let me just show you, okay, is this the MP4 file? Same as in the presentation. Goes to blah, 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 blah. Gosh, I'm very impatient. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So what is it? Convert image, movie, H. So what I'm going to do is create an animated GIF of this thing. And let her fly. It might take maybe up to 30 seconds. So
I think you need to make some loading like jingles. Do 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 do. It's pretty good.
oh, there we go. Or I could just do time. You see this? This GIF?
Nice.
Yeah.
Pretty big, but let's see if it works.
Oh.
I guess it would be a lot more work for me to fake something like this. You got to take my word for it, I guess, that it is an animated GIF that I've generated here. But yep, something, but the benefit of that is even though in lots of cases it's a lot bigger in size, at least unless you make some, shrinkage, it is something that, can be shared pretty much everywhere, I guess, because nobody's thought of really restricting it, at least by default. How do I stop this? Okay, I guess I could just, all right, here we go. And what else is there? I think that's pretty much it. Here are the resources, right? Which I think have already been in the chat. I think it's on Discord. It's even on the README front page. The presentation in Keynote and PowerPoint form. Those links are on the README for the repo. And let me just show that to you all again. Let's see. Yep, this one here and that one there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of this came about because I really don't like to pay for anything. I'm sure there's Adobe Illustrator that can do a lot of this stuff. Even the stuff that DM, right? What does that stand for?
Wait, which one? VM.
DN? DN? Who mentioned
Sorry, I'm not with you, Tanim. What would you like to know?
well, you mentioned, I think maybe an Illustrator can out of the box do things that you described, like identify these small sort of dark regions, maybe on the halo of your image or of your image, and just replace them with white or whatever color you choose.
I've pasted in the chat one link to those sorts of filters.
Oh, okay.
Which yeah, you can catch up with later. Obviously, you were speaking, so wouldn't have seen it. But yeah, I think there are better explanations elsewhere. It just happened to be the first one that I found, which is using Pillow and therefore working with video. But yeah, I think that this is very interesting. Are you using this in preparing lectures and things like that?
Yes, all the time. In fact, I'm sort of behind on 2 seminars that I'm presenting this month. And yeah, I create an image either in Keynote or some other tool. And I use, auto cropping to, crop these images individually. Or I, create a set of PNGs as frames and use this tool, Convert Image also, to create an MP4 file that I can then, put in my presentation. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can show one presentation that's been reviewed and released that demonstrates what I did, if you're fine with seeing that. This is actually my real world stuff, if you want to take a look.
Oh yeah, show us.
All right, let's see if I have. It's buried. Where the hell is it? Okay, let me see. Northwestern University seminar. I hate this piece of crap. You know what? I'm going to do something. Copy. Travel 2022. Let's see. Oh shoot, it's not in some form that is easy for me to see. Okay, let me, yeah, just, I thought there would be. This is one of those. If you guys have ever used a tool like Tmuts, it's great for basically having a trillion different windows where your work is located. And I've just got to remember where the hell I put, there it is. Northwestern presentation. I guess I'm one of the few people I know who can, cause a CLI to choke. Okay.
Interesting. So you could have hundreds of tabs.
Yeah, exactly. And let's see if I have an MP4. Copy. Desktop. Now let me go to, let's see. Where is my presentations? General, there we go. Desktop. Okay, there it is. All right, so you're gonna see this image here. Let's open that up. Here's something I created for my work. It's a laser, it's actually an experiment that I fielded a few months ago, or actually closer to 11 months ago. There's a laser beams hitting this, basically this target, this tin doped plastic, and it's just shining on it, and it's making it very hot, like what's this, a few million kelvins hot, at least at the hottest parts. And then what this thing does, it emits pretty brightly in X-rays. And this was an experiment that was fielded to see, can we make this a really efficient target? So like taking the 10 kilojoules of laser energy and turning it into, 6 to 8 kilojoules of X-rays coming out of it. And this is just something I show, college students, as well as for, various, asks for money and time on facilities, as in, okay, you might not follow all the details, but here's a cool video.
Yeah, so what that video, it started out as sort of a bulb with an entry point, and then it
Yes.
sort of explodes by the end. Is that
That's right.
that's
That's pretty
depicting
much it. That
and then it's just
is it.
melting and exploding?
It's turning into a plasma. It's more than just melting. Yeah, because all the action happens over 30 nanoseconds. The
So-
lasers, come out in 1.5 nanoseconds. And this is just an example of something, these individual images I created in a tool called Visit, that basically runs through each simulation step, or processes each simulation step that was already dumped out, creates a PNG, and then this tool Convert Image takes that sequence of PNGs and turns it into this MP4 file here. Yep.
And it's also normalizing them so they have the same bit depth and dimensions and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, actually, that's probably an enhancement, just having the same dimensions, or at least to check to, error out if the sequence of images don't have the same dimensions. Right now, this tool called Visit, it creates, these images of the same dimension, width and height, and just, goes through each simulation time step. And, each of them has a sequence of frames in a PNG file, in a movie. And then what Convert Images does is, takes that and turns it into an MP4. And I think here it also automatically cropped it, because Visit creates these PNG files, but they have a lot of extra white space in them. So I want something that's just the action and nothing outside it. So that's, yeah.
That's something I noticed with Pillow, is that Pillow requires that all the images be, compatible, right? So that you have the same basic, the most basic compatibility is X and Y dimensions. Right? If you try to make a GIF out of things with wildly different dimensions, it's not going to work. So the first thing you have to do is normalize everything before you can combine them together.
I think FFmpeg can, but you might not get a valid or effectively a corrupted MP4 file. That's been my experience.
Now I'm wondering, where do I get one of these laser diodes, though? You were saying it was kilojoules per second?
Kilojoules per nanosecond.
Kilojoules per nanosecond. Oh man!
So terawatts of power, laser power. So not easy to find that stuff.
Yeah, for reference, a laser pointer is 1 milliwatt. So
yeah,
you're saying 10 to the 12 times greater that
10 to the 15 times greater.
Whoa.
And this is
teras after giga.
Yeah, giga is 1 billion times a unit. Tera is 1 trillion times a unit, and since you have a milli, which is 1,000th of a unit.
To the -3. Yeah, so 10 to the 15.
Yes.
Whoa. That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, you're not supposed to put your hand in there.
Do the emitters also kind of go plasma as well? Or
There's special mirrors. They've made it work so that the optics you can reuse them constantly, like hundreds of cycles of this power delivery. I don't know how they make it happen, but they do. It's called chirp pulse amplification, I think. There's a Nobel Prize by one of the laser scientists who used to work at NIF, which is a laser facility at my place of work. And she got a Nobel Prize for the invention she made at another laser facility called Omega in Rochester, New York, which I went to 2 weeks ago for an experiment, which is used this kind of target.
That's crazy. Pulse amplification, that's like, don't they use like a lot of parallel capacitors to make that spike like that?
It's my knowledge is, I haven't even read the Wikipedia article, but I think a pretty good, encyclopedia descriptions on Wikipedia on the thing that makes this thing possible. I think, yeah.
That's pretty cool. But you made that with IV-Tenine, that little animation.
Yeah. I use convert image, that thing I described, that executable that I just showed you guys. Yep. And there isn't a huge amount of code in there either. And because it really does only one thing, or, those executables do one or just a few things. And to create, create an MP4, it uses FFmpeg under the hood to make all the magic happen. Same way it uses FFmpeg to convert an MP4 into a GIF or a GIF.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you want to make a smaller GIF, you just shrink it. That's what I've typically done. Nobody's complained about the artifacts in the GIFs that I made, so maybe it all works okay.
Hey, it's not about being proud of it. It's about being less ashamed.
Less ashamed, yes. Less shame. That's really what I'm aiming for myself, for others, for groups of people, for institutions. Less shame, yes.
Hey, well, cheers to more or less bad.
Yes. Any other questions anybody has?
Yeah, how do you make this more streamlined? What is a more distilled subset of IV Tanim?
A more
What's next?
distilled. What's next? Well, okay, I think I'd like to carve out this, music processing stuff and the email stuff all into, another repo. So take that out of NPR stuff and move it elsewhere. And NPR stuff would be just those executables that really no longer work. Because, NPR has just really shat the bed in terms of their API. They've effectively gotten rid of their API, and the Selenium web scraper I use to get around it to find, the URL coordinates of Fresh Air and Wait, Don't Tell Me episodes, that no longer works anymore. So, so it'll be the NPR stuff will probably end up being the things that don't work or that I don't use anymore. And everything else will be that I do sort of kind of use will be in separate, repositories with their own Sphinx documentation.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for presenting. Always interesting to see what you're working on. Oh, all right. We got VJs on the camera finally. Anyone got any questions for Tanim? Or we'll let him off the hook. No, we got one.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to say hi. I moved to Sacramento recently, and I've been trying to make this group for such a long time, but it clashes with my Taekwondo class. So, but today I made it, so I'm really happy.
Yeah, we're glad you made it too. Thanks for joining. I don't know if you made it for the shenanigans in the beginning. It was interesting.
I missed that. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to make it in time next time.
Oh no, you know
That's
what? But yeah, the filtering period at the beginning is it's missable. So glad you made it. Cool. All right. Well, Tanim, got anything else for us tonight?
That's pretty much it. I mean, I figure I'm going to be watching some Venture Brothers after a long time, after this meeting, stuff like that. And then heading off to bed. I'm a pretty boring person schedule-wise.
I have an off-the-wall question if everybody's finished with the sensible questions.
Sure.
So one of the things I've been wanting to do, Tanim, is to handle the problem we have with making training videos.
Okay.
Because once you go to a lot of trouble to script all these things, and then once you've made the video, the asset is representing quite a considerable expense. And unfortunately, in the computer game, of course, things change quite rapidly. Mm-hmm. So you often want to change just a little piece of the video. And I've long said, hey, we can do some of these things with nonlinear video editors and FFmpeg. But of course, the video guys with all their expensive equipment, and they happen to be in another country, not easy for me to get hold of them. Getting them to do something is very expensive.
Mm.
Now, if we have a video where we're explaining, let's talk about Python. That's a Python group. So if we have a video where we're explaining some Python code, and we would like to have some not screenshots but dynamic updates to the programming, for example, And then we want to make a change of just that part of the video. So we're not going to change the commentary. We're not going to change the introduction. We're not going to change the conclusion. We're just going to change the code. I'm wondering whether we can actually do that dynamically using a system like you've just described or just demonstrated.
Well, it would be, I think, an element of it. And the stupid way I might start is, I mean, if you just have the video, create the PNGs from it, it is probably overkill and the solution's not great. And you've already, maybe identified either via annotations in the video where the, thing is, like where the code part.
Yeah, you've got a storyboard. Yeah.
Yes. And then just take those PNGs and do a substitution on them. I wouldn't know how to do that other than, okay, here's a mask, here's a new image, and just, basically what I'm trying to say is these PNG files have the same dimension, and you do a replacement of, I guess, the part that shows the code with different code. I don't know enough grammar of image manipulation to tell you what that might be called. I guess a substitution or just a paste. And it's not probably going to look great, but it's something. And then you compose those PNGs together, and here's your new movie. But this is probably you give it to an intern.
Sometimes I think I am the intern.
There you go.
Certainly the dog's body, the guy gets the dirty jobs,
Yeah.
the gopher. So yeah, actually just watching what you were showing us, instead of a long video, which is a single artifact, I'm wondering whether we can dynamically stitch together a video from a whole series of little videos, which to the user, to the student, to the trainee, they look like a continuous video, but from a technology perspective, they're actually a whole series of little components strung together dynamically. And if we do that, we can change any one of those little components without any expense and without any impact on the wider video.
So it's like a make file, right?
Say again?
It's like a make file for videos.
Yeah, except it happens every time someone plays, in inverted commas, plays the video.
Oh, it generates a new video as soon as people start playing it, or pressing a button effectively?
Well, you were more or less showing us that capability.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay. I guess I don't fully understand it, because if you have a sequence of videos, I think FFmpeg can stitch them together. At least there's probably something that needs to be, I don't know if FFmpeg can do some kind of interpolation beyond transitions, like between videos, but to make it a little smoother, maybe that's a machine learning thing to do. But yeah, it's basically better transitions, or maybe have a tool to create the better transitions between videos and then have FFmpeg stitch them together. I mean, have you done stuff like that before for your work?
Well, we're doing it all the time, but mainly it's done by the professional video people. And as you've pointed out, any of us can get involved with Pillow.
Yeah. I've only used Pillow as the take a NumPy array and convert it into an image and vice versa. So my usage of Pillow is just NumPy array to image file. I didn't know it could do all this other stuff. I didn't try that.
Oh, well, you've got us all thinking. Thank you, Tanim.
You're welcome.
I'm not sure what to call you. Call you DN for now.
good.
It seems like something that would be pretty easy would be to do basically a build each time you change your script, right? So when you do a build, that's when you use FFmpeg to generate the output MP4, right?
Or whatever, yeah, I guess.
And that's going to take a certain amount of time to do that new build. But if you don't care about that, if it's like, all right, we're going to take an hour to do a new build, and then we'll have this new version with all the new edits in, then the problem is solved. But it sounds like you also want some sort of like a late binding where you don't go through that build step.
No, I wouldn't say it like that. Okay, so Robert, the DN is because my first name is David, and in any group of people.
Oh, sorry.
Say again.
Oh yeah, I thought I was.
So I was saying my first name is David, and usually in any group of people, there's going to be more than one David. So people know me by my initials, DN.
Okay.
So I'm quite happy with that. Now, I'm thinking that, yes, you are right. To prepare a video component, you need to compute these images. So, for example, Taneem's demonstration of taking a bunch of PNG images, stringing them together with appropriate parameters, and then building a video from that will take some time, and using FFmpeg or any other tool. Tool irrespective, takes time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's your build. So from that moment, you have an artifact. So you have a product, you have a video. Now, if you consider that is a small video that is so many seconds of time within a larger video, which is, let's say, 7 minutes long. If our larger video consists of smaller videos, which are strung together dynamically, each of the smaller videos has already been built, or using your analogy, make.
Mm-hmm.
So the time is taken to build that small video. But then when it comes to playing the video in a training session, all of these small video components are strung together dynamically. Now that shouldn't be any more process heavy than retrieving the data from the disk file and displaying it through your projector, whatever you want to call it.
You need some sort of a manager to call those in the right sequence and present them on the screen, right? Or present them in whatever container.
Exactly. But I think that's a minor processing issue, which Taneem has been demonstrating.
I mean, I guess you could have a player, because I'm hearing you don't necessarily even want to have a new, bigger video, right? You might just have a more seamless player that would play.
Well, I mean, you can play video in HTML. It's not sophisticated. It's, the actual player is not. Yeah. So, using Robert's analogy a little bit further, if you have a Python program, you import in other modules, but you certainly call a whole series of functions. So your program consists of a series of function calls, or looping through a series of function calls. So, using that as an analogy, if we have, instead of functions, we have a series of short videos. Now our program, our long video, consists of a series of calls to these shorter videos. Now, the advantage there, presuming we can get the functionality, presuming the timing works in the player, which I think it should, and that's not been part of Taneem's demonstration, but presuming we can do that, the advantage is that you can now change any one of those small
Right.
function videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the issue of a video being an expensive asset starts to go away. I'm able to make a change more easily and more cheaply, and therefore my video or my courseware stays up to date. I can continue to update it without it being a huge and expensive project.
Yeah. So if you have a GUI, right, and if you have a video player component in that GUI, right, that can play, whatever MOV, MP4, whatever, and then you have something that scripts what is being loaded into that component, right?
Yep.
Then you have a solution to the problem, and you just have a file which just lists those video files in sequence and maybe a duration for each of them, so it could actually cut one off at a certain time period, right? And then move on to the next one.
Would
That's a
you
good
be
idea.
interested in a container format or specification, I guess, that FFmpeg could consume that does exactly that? I mean, that is something like FFmpeg-I list of videos in order. And it would just play it. Okay, it goes this. I don't know if FFmpeg can or any other tool can. I'm not sure.
Well, if you look at some YouTube videos, particularly from conferences, is my experience, they will often put little marks along the timeline to show you when the speaker has moved from one topic to another. In the old days, we used to use this with slide projectors. There'd be this little mark saying, okay, you're listening to the sound, beep, move on to the next slide in the video component. So they can do that in YouTube. You can also do that in HTML.
Yeah.
So if you have a video projector in HTML, which is showing the video, you can have time marked components. So for example, that's how you would put in your, what do you call it? The words at the bottom. So if you have a translation, sorry, I can't think of what the word is in English. Simultaneous subtitling. Thank you.
It is subtitling? Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way you would bring in text for subtitling in order to put it on the screen at the same time as the speaker is speaking or the action is happening in the video, you could use that backwards. You could actually use that as a timing track.
Yeah.
Because they're coordinated by JavaScript or Rust or whatever you're using as your logic.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Richard, you see where we're going now rather than try to do it dynamically.
Yeah.
Sorry, I called you Richard, Robert.
Yeah, I figured that you were talking about me. Yeah, that makes sense. It shouldn't be that hard to make something like that.
Prototype it.
Right. And actually, when you have a video editor, right, where you like drag different clips into your video editor and arrange them, you're doing the same kind of thing.
At least before the final process.
That's right. Right. Yep. But you can still hit the play button to see what they look like in that sequence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's a bunch of us now. There's a whole load of minds all spinning around. The wheels are going. So, yeah.
Yeah. You're talking, Dean, about something that's somewhat live streaming of video. Like if you could, while one video is playing, kind of line up the next one.
That makes a lot of sense, Woody. That's you're coalescing some ideas here. If you think of it as happening live, even if if you were a student, you would be looking at it now. And if I was a student, I might choose to look at it in an hour's time. But it would still have that live component of being assembled while the viewer is watching.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking of how to, like, what kind of tool set you could do bare bones. I think if you worked with something like OBS, Open Broadcast System, and then
Yep.
we're compiling your, like, concatenating videos with FFmpeg in the background, you could be doing scene switching, and perhaps I know you can use Python to control scene switching on OBS, and so you could be staying ahead of what's going through OBS, like putting together videos. Presumably, this is so that you're like almost video jockeying or something like that, where you're thinking like, oh, this would be good to go with the next one, versus, you know, some sort of polished, you know, video edited thing.
I see your DJ career coming to the fore here.
Yes, Maestro Primatic is always in effect. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm looking at I posted a link to FFmpeg Python, and if nothing else, it seems like you could stitch together videos just with the concatenate function. I have some projects somewhere in my list of designs that initially identified FFmpeg as the way to go. I also posted a link to a kind of a satirical like developer talking about FFmpeg. This guy kind of lampoons all sorts of like specialized developers. It's like in there numerous times. Robert, you watched it, right? That guy. He says, I put together a full-length documentary in FFmpeg. He says like a million times. Pretty fun. But I bet you could do something kind of live with OBS. I know there's a whole bunch of things that plug into what are called digital audio workstations. You know, like Ableton or Logic or Machine. There's a whole bunch of them out there. Fruity Loops. But they allow you to DJ with either just tracks or digital instruments, and then pair it up with like video output. So if you're literally doing a DJ type thing, you're up there with your decks, and behind you perhaps, or maybe in front of you, you've got some sort of visual output that's on like a projector or some sort of LCD array, and then it, you know, connects with the audio in a fashion that, you know, makes sense, sort of a visualization. Let's see, what was one of them? VJMD or something like that. I don't know, some like four letter acronym. But in the interest of a Pythonic solution, I know OBS works with Python. FFmpeg seems to have an okay set of bindings via Python, thanks to at least one repo on GitHub. Bet you can make something happen. You'd still have to be relatively nimble, I'd say. Short
Yeah,
of just,
this is really good. No, thank you guys. You sort of got the juices flowing here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like the idea of it being more flexible as opposed to building something which is just going to sit there as a fixed entity. So yeah, the DJ ideas, yeah, that's quite a good idea, because it's the same sort of thought pattern of making it happen in real time or close to. Yeah, as opposed to everything we do is like the old days of batch processing. It's done. It's a great big lump. It's a mono.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
Yeah.
if anyone else has anything they want to share, feel free. We've got, you know, another 30 minutes on the clock. Otherwise, we could start wrapping things up and call it for November. Any announcements? Cool. Well, I think we've got our next speaker lined up for December. Violet's back talking about another tool set they've put together. I'll have more updates in the events as that come up. But thanks to everyone for showing up. Sorry about the the bumpy start. Thankfully, Zoom bombers are fairly impatient when it comes to their pranks, so we at least got it out of the way pretty quickly. So thanks for everyone for showing up, and hopefully we'll see you next month.
All right. Night, everyone.
See everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Woody. And I've sent you a meetup email on the bombing subject, so we can talk later.
Sounds good. And I'll try to make it to the Smart Iterator office hours on the 8th.
Yeah, well, download the challenge first
All
and
right.
see if you can
See
come with some
everyone.
answers. Bye.
Bye.